My name is Tariq Turki, and I'm going to be presenting on the potential of solar PV panel systems in Lebanon for residential use. To give you some background, Lebanon is a relatively poor country off the Mediterranean coast. It does not have any natural oil or fossil fuel reserves, unlike its neighboring countries. It's forced to import all its fuel, and because it has such a high debt to GDP ratio, it cannot afford to provide electricity to all citizens. Currently in the city of Beirut, residents see about 3 hours of outage a day, whereas in other cities such as in Tripoli or Saida, the outages can be up to 12 hours a day. What residents do is they subscribe to private or independent power providers, effectively private diesel gensets run that support a neighborhood. These gensets are very expensive. To give you an example of how big of a problem it is, the GDP per capita in Lebanon is about $9,000 in nominal terms. A monthly genset subscription can be anywhere from $100 to $500, depending on the genset size and the subscription size. We're not talking massive capacities either. For example, the smallest subscription size that the government mandates price on is 5 amperage, which at 220 volts and a power factor of 880, a power factor of 0.8 only gives you 880 watts of electricity, which is effectively enough to run a small fan and maybe a fridge. This is the day-to-day lives of the residents. So what we're trying to do is see if we can replace diesel gensets with PV. What's making this interesting is the formation of a non-government organization called NERA, National Economic Revival Action, I believe. NERA is run by the EU and coordinated by the UNDP. It's effectively subsidized green loans, and it takes the astronomical interest rates in Lebanon, which are typically above 8%, down to a 1% interest rate for up to 14 years. Part of that, though, is seeing if it is an effective loan. Just because the money is effectively free, you need to find out if it's a good value proposition. And we're going to do that by looking at the monthly cost avoidance or cost savings that a resident would save by discontinuing his subscription versus the system cost of replacing it with a PV system. And to define the PV system, it is going to be an AC coupled inverter system. So it'll be PV panels on a rack hooked up to an AC coupled battery, which ties directly to the grid and directly to the meter. AC coupled batteries are relatively new. They hit the market in 2016, and they've significantly reduced costs. So between the NERA loans and the AC coupled batteries, the thought is that solar PV should be effective at replacing diesel. When I ran my cost analysis, I looked at the cost of the system in terms of future dollars. In terms of present value versus the cost savings of future annuities, and came up with an annuity calculation. Then what I did is I effectively brute forced all the different options of what this power system could look like. Looking at the mounting structure, looking at the racking system, looking at the photovoltaic panel arrays, and looking at the AC coupled battery. I looked at 2 different racking systems. The first is a fixed system, and the second is a pole-mounted tracking system. For the panels, I looked at 4 different output levels, all LG, because they have a presence in the country already, anywhere from 280 watt peak to 350 watt peak. On the AC coupled battery, I looked at 3 different battery options, one from Tesla, one from Enphase, and another from ESS. Overall, I came out with some very interesting results. When I first went into this, I thought that the applications in Tripoli and Sadda were going to be would provide much higher NPVs than Beirut, just because they have a higher outage per day. And in fact, it was the exact opposite. I saw an inverse relationship, and that's because of the price maximums. The government will mandate a price for outage, and it is effectively a better bang for your buck in Tripoli than it is in Beirut, where you're paying $100 for 3 hours of support versus $100 for 12 hours of support. So I saw an inverse relationship there where I thought I'd see a direct positive correlation. The other thing I saw that was interesting was looking at the panel pricing. I assumed that the very cheap but low density panels, the 280 watt panels, would be more cost effective in terms of NPV. But when you factored in the high square foot cost of roofs, the 350 watt systems proved more economic. Tied to that, you did not see the same relationship on the tracking systems. Tracking systems can increase your solar insolation and effectively produce more output per panel, but the high cost of installation and the high cost of those systems proved detrimental to the NPV. I hope you read my report. If you have any questions, please give me a call.